Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us today on our session on using continuous performance management to guide managers. We are super excited. We can't wait to help you guys make the performance management process smooth and enjoyable. My name is Izzy. I am the Marketing and Client Care Coordinator here at Lightwork Software, but I also work with our employees for our internal employee communication and our wellness, and I love working with each and every one of my coworkers. And I do my best to try to ensure that they have the best work environment possible so that they can succeed not only professionally, but also personally. This webinar, we're going to go over all the ways that you can embrace the performance management process and make it your best one yet. And before I let Morgan take over, I have some quick housekeeping for everybody. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, feel free to put them into the chat or the question box and we'll answer them as we go. We definitely want to help you guys, so if you have anything whatsoever, feel free to throw it in there. Also, this webinar will be recorded and we'll send the link out later today along with a survey that if you fill it out, you can get a gift card. If you ever want any more information, feel free to browse our YouTube channel to watch our previous webinars or even schedule an appointment with us and we can go further into depth of your performance management process. With that being said, I'm going to turn it on over to Morgan, who is my awesome coworker. You're up, Morgan.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Izzy. As she mentioned, my name is Morgan Lacey. I am an account manager for Lightwork Software. I am also excited to have our group here today. I'm always happy to see that people are interested in empowering and guiding their managers, especially with the performance management process. Just a quick agenda here for us today. We're going to talk about some of the ways to help managers embrace the performance management process and how to empower those managers with feedback from new hire. And then to finish things up, we're going to talk about the power of goal setting and how to help managers provide positive and forward-focused employee reviews. Now, when most people talk about managers in the performance management process, it usually is in reference to their participation in the annual review. But I really think there's more opportunity for managers to thrive when they have the tools that provide an efficient and effective performance management process. Managers have a big influence on the employee experience, so being intentional about their communication and engagement in the performance management process can make a big difference in the employee-manager dynamic. What most leaders want from their managers is for them to take charge of their team in an effort to make their employees more productive and more committed. But just like their employees, managers need clear expectations set for them as leaders. For example, communicating the expectation that managers need to create a consistent cadence that makes sense for their department and for their team, that sets aside time for them to connect with each of their employees throughout the review cycle. It's also important to set the expectation that managers should document things from not only those one-on-ones, but of all of their direct reports, observable behavior, and achievements throughout the review cycle. And after that expectation, it sets, you're leading into the next expectation, which is when rating their direct reports performance, it needs to be based off of documented details that the managers have captured throughout the review cycle. If you want your employees to also embrace the performance management process, then it's important for them to feel as though their managers are taking their whole year's worth of performance into consideration when rating them. Managers who make the effort are more likely to have employees who trust them to provide feedback and guidance. Another very important expectation for leaders to set with managers is that when they get feedback from their direct reports, that they're expected to take next steps once a suggestion or concern is shared. If managers reach out to gather feedback from their employees, but never take action to acknowledge or make changes based on those requests or concerns, it can lead to employees losing interest in communicating things with their manager. Setting clear expectations in the performance management process for managers as far as their responsibility for things like scheduling time to set goals with their employees, being intentional about their questions and feedback, and taking action to advocate and guide their employees, you'll find managers that are more engaged in the success of their team. There are a few tools that leaders can use to empower and guide managers in the performance management process. The tools that I have listed here can allow managers to have open and ongoing communication with their employees throughout the review cycle, which can allow managers to engage their employees in their own success. This engagement can give managers insight into their employees' strengths and areas of weakness. For example, surveys allow managers to gather valuable feedback from their new hires and long-term employees, which in turn provides them with the information and opportunity to advocate for their employees' success for things like professional development. Goal setting is a great tool to help managers set clear expectations for their employees, and the results of those goals can provide insight into where employees might need additional support. That proactive approach for supporting employees in their role can also help promote employee retention. Journals are a very valuable tool for managers in the performance management process, as this allows them to document employee performance details throughout the review cycle, in turn giving them the details they need to provide fair and accurate ratings for their employees. And last, we have reviews. Whether they're annual or more frequent, they can be the tool that sets the tone for the performance management process. Performance reviews don't have the best reputation because for some employees it feels more like an opportunity for punishment instead of a tool that allows them to engage in their own success. Encourage managers to use performance reviews as a time to review achievements and make action plans with their employees based on an area of weakness. Using these tools in the performance management process will give managers the structure and information they need to lead their team. Performance management can provide managers with valuable insight. So I want to talk a little bit about how that insight can allow managers to become more involved in their employees' success. Managers who take the time to connect with employees to set goals will be better able to gather insight into their employees' efforts and priorities. This insight allows managers to focus on the things that they can do to guide employees to help them achieve their goals. If you want managers to be accountable for their team's efforts and priorities, then they need to have insight into where their employees are struggling and where they're excelling so that they can help employees manage and prioritize. You will find that committed employees are the ones that are willing and interested in providing feedback to their leaders. If you want your managers to have employees that are engaged and committed to their work, they need to provide them with the opportunity to give feedback. Managers that get that feedback and take action or acknowledgement are the committed and engaged managers that are interested in advocating for their team. Leaders can gather a lot of insight about their managers by seeing what kind of action managers take with the insight that they get from employee feedback. It's important to communicate to managers the details that they need to capture from their employees' performance throughout the review cycle. These details will help guide managers as they work to support and engage their employees. So I want to review some of the basics of documenting discipline details that you can share with managers and leaders. In the unfortunate case of employee termination, managers having documented details on employee behavior when it comes to rules or policies being broken can make a big difference as they review with the employee the reasons for termination. Managers should always ensure that they are including details such as the first and last name of all involved. Next, they should include the date, time, and location of the incident, as well as specify the rule or policy broken. These basic details can help managers justify their requests for termination. I talk to HR people all the time, and I have heard a lot of stories about a request for termination from a manager who have nothing to show when HR requests documentation to back up that request. So, encouraging managers to capture discipline details throughout the performance management process allows them to have the information that they need to take disciplinary action when necessary. Next, I want to talk about documenting observable behaviors when it comes to employee performance. Those details should not include the assumption of an employee's mental or emotional activities. Managers should be focusing on things that they can directly observe. For example, if they have an employee who is going above and beyond to help their peers or is working late to meet a project deadline, that should be documented and referenced when rating the employee's performance. Managers should note when employees show up to meetings prepared and organized. Those are the employees that are committed to their work and deserve recognition for it. Managers should also document things like employees being proactive or employees who support and help their peers achieve their goals. It's important that managers take the time to document these positive observable behaviors and reference them when rating employees. Employees can feel a sense of value and appreciation when they have managers who are making the effort to document their strengths and achievements. When leaders and admin engage with managers to communicate their expectations in the performance management process, it is a good reminder that managers should be focused on the observable behaviors and not how they feel about the employee personally. All right. If you're looking to make managers more accountable for their employees' efforts, then you should encourage including these details that I have listed here in the goal setting process. Managers who set clear expectations by including details with employee goals are better able to determine the status of the goal. Managers should include a due date for each goal to ensure that they and the employee are both in agreement of when something can be delivered. It's also important for managers to review the priority of each goal to help employees manage their time and their efforts. Being able to include a status on each goal will allow managers to easily determine which employees' goals are still outstanding and which have been completed. Now, leaders should do the same for their managers. Take the time to connect with managers to set goals that can help guide them in their role as a leader. For example, set a goal for your managers to have all of their meetings scheduled with their employees for their one-on-ones by the end of the month. Or maybe a weekly goal that's set to help remind them that they need to set aside time to document their employees' performance to help avoid common rating errors like recency. Now, if you'd like to learn more about avoiding those common rating errors for managers, like Izzy mentioned before, check out our YouTube channel. We have a couple webinars there, and we actually go through one where we talk about those common rating errors and actually provide some tips to avoid them as well. So maybe something to review as you're kind of getting ready to start the performance management process. When you're getting ready to connect with those managers to set the expectations that you have of them in the performance management process, and then just talk to them about best practices. And I think a great thing to review with managers prior to them doing performance reviews for their employees is being aware of the common rating errors like recency, which is only being able to remember what recently happened, because then you have managers who aren't giving fair and accurate ratings to their employees, which in turn you'll end up losing employees' interest in the performance management process. So like I said, if you'd like to learn more about avoiding those common rating errors, check out our YouTube channel. I think we have another 30-minute webinar of that. All righty. A great way to guide managers with performance management is encouraging them to engage with their new hires. Engaging with new hires allows managers to receive feedback on things like company culture or the onboarding process. This insight can allow managers to make any changes that can create a more positive work culture or a more positive onboarding experience. Managers that engage new hires and learn about their strengths and areas of weakness are better able to advocate and support their new employees past the onboarding and training stages. In the last few years, I have heard more and more HR people talk to me about new hire surveys as they want to make an effort to retain their new employees. Managers who provide new hire surveys are establishing a formal way for their employees to communicate with them. And as someone in a previous job who has been a new hire, I know that I would have really appreciated my managers taking the time to learn where I needed additional support. So, the feedback that managers receive from new hire surveys on their areas of weakness, you should be using that information, or managers should be using that information to set goals. And by that, I mean setting goals that allow employees to manage and work through the areas where they're struggling. Taking new hire feedback and using it in the goal setting process can show employees that their managers are there to learn about what they can do to help them succeed from the beginning. And like I mentioned before, I've been a new hire. I've been through training. I've been through the onboarding experience. And looking back, it would have been so nice to have a manager that said, what can I help you with? Where do you need additional support? Be able to kind of map out where I'm excelling, what I do understand, and maybe some places that I need some additional clarification would have just been really nice. And also something to remind managers as they have these new employees, they've been a new employee before. So just remind them, like, what did you need? What kind of support did you need as a new employee? Because that is kind of the mindset that they need to have with their new employees. Where did I need support? Where do I wish somebody would have showed up for me and made sure that I had what I needed? Just something to kind of review with managers as they bring on new people into their department. With that being said, now we're going to talk about the value in new hire feedback. Or now that we've talked about the value of new hire feedback, I want to talk about the questions that managers can ask when providing the new hire surveys, as well as kind of a suggested cadence for them. Now, please keep in mind, this might not apply to your department, to your company. These are more so best practices. If you'd like to learn and kind of connect and talk through what would be best for your team, please feel free to reach out and do so. But with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about the content and the cadence of a new hire survey. At 30 days, managers should ensure that new employees know what is expected of them in their new role, and that they feel as though they can reach out to someone if they have any questions about those expectations or just need additional support. If managers are looking for feedback on how new employees are feeling about the job, surveys are a great way to ask questions to determine if the job is what the employee expected. Gathering this feedback and having this insight about new hires can help managers determine what they can do to support them going forward in the training process. Now, at 60 days, managers should ensure that employees feel as though they have the resources that they need to do their job efficiently and effectively. Asking this allows employees to express the need for additional resources and support in a formal way. Something else that managers might want insight into for new hires at the 60-day mark is that they feel as though they're a good fit when it comes to company culture. All employees should have a way to express to managers that they don't feel as though they are a good fit. That can allow managers the chance to look into why they might feel that way, or maybe determine if they're a good fit for the role in the department. At 60 days, it's important for managers to know whether their new hires are facing any challenges in their new role. Being proactive with this information can help managers retain new employees. At 90 days, managers can start asking new hires about their experience with the onboarding process in an effort to improve the process for future new hires. Managers should also ensure that new hires feel as though they have a way to formally communicate with their leaders going forward, meaning after the onboarding and after the training process, do these new hires have a way to reach out to their leaders or to their managers and ask questions, ask for help? If an employee can see that their manager wants to make an effort to support them outside of the onboarding and training process, it can help promote employee retention, as well as create a dynamic with their manager that's based around communication and support. And last but not least, managers should ask new hires if they have a clear picture of how their performance is being measured. Asking this gives managers insight into whether they have communicated the expectation to the employee clearly. New hire surveys engage employees and their managers in the performance management process from the beginning, making it easier for them to embrace the other tools in the process because they see them as an opportunity to communicate effectively and promote success on both the manager and the employee side. Again, if you guys have questions about the new hire surveys as far as content, what managers should be asking, and when, if you don't feel like this cadence or these questions work for your industry, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to kind of talk through maybe what you want to know about your new hires and kind of get those questions together so you can get those to managers so that they can provide them. Because again, these new hire surveys are providing feedback that allows managers to guide and advocate for their employees. And as I mentioned before, as a new employee, I would have loved to have a manager who had the tools to do that for me. So again, it's just talking to your managers and reminding them what it's like to be a new hire, what they wish they would have had as a new hire, to kind of change that process. There's been such a change and such a focus on the employee experience, and I think a great place to kind of start that effort are these new hire surveys, is bringing somebody on and showing them that, like, hey, we think you're a good fit, we think you have the skills and the knowledge to do your job, so how can we help you do that effectively and efficiently? So I know, like I said, it's definitely the last few years has been a change to the interest in new hire surveys. I don't see that going away just because the employee experience has become such a focus. So I think there's a lot of value in kind of kicking off that initial relationship between managers and employees, and them having kind of a formal way to communicate is good for an employee, but it's also guiding managers. It's giving them the information that they need to advocate for their employees for professional development or even a role change. There's a lot of things that you can get from surveys as leaders, as managers, that allow you insight into where your company is going, where some hurdles might be that you're unaware of. So again, if you have those employees who are committed to their work and are committed to your company, they're going to be willing to give you feedback. But as I mentioned before, remind your managers, if you're going to go out there, if you're going to provide those new hire surveys, once you get that feedback, it's so important to take action with that feedback. So, not just those suggestions and concerns kind of going in a black box and not going anywhere, because then, like I said, employees kind of lose faith in reaching out to their managers and providing that feedback. All right, on to what I think a lot of people are interested in, because as much as I've talked about the tools inside of the performance management process being the goal setting, the journals, I do think that a lot of people are just doing an annual review, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of, there's not a great reputation for the annual performance review. So I just want to talk a little bit about how you can change that and what that means for managers. So as I mentioned before, annual reviews can get a bad rap with employees. But if you encourage managers to use the reviews as an opportunity to help employees problem solve, then employees are more likely to see it as an opportunity to grow. If managers go into the review making the effort to be more thoughtful and intentional about their feedback, they're more likely to have employees engage and work with them to create action plans for improvement. Leaders and administrators should always encourage managers to close out the review process by reviewing the ways that they're going to support their employees in achieving their goals. This gives the performance review a more positive and forward-focused tone. I'm sure most people here have had a performance review at some point in their life and were dreading walking into that conversation with their manager. And I think a big part of that, for most employees anyways, is that they don't know where they stand with their performance prior to that review. But if managers are using the other tools in the performance management process, like I mentioned before, the surveys, the goals, the journals, employees should walk into an annual review knowing where they stand performance-wise. That way, they're more open to reviewing their areas of weakness with their manager because they know that the step after that is going to be them collaborating with their manager to make a plan to work through those areas. Again, remind managers about the support that they want from leaders and have them apply that to how they engage their direct reports. It is not just about keeping tabs on everything. It's about being informed so they can work with the employee to make things more efficient and more effective. And I do want to just kind of go back to that and reiterate, it is not just about keeping tabs. Performance management is absolutely about documenting and going through an employee's performance, but it can't just be like, hey, these are all the things that you did wrong and leaving it at that. It has to be like, hey, this is where you've struggled throughout the year, and this is how I would like us to work together to get you to where you're not struggling in these areas. So again, closing that conversation with support, like, here are all the things you did great this year. Let's review your achievements. Let's review the areas where you struggled, but let's not just leave it there. Let's take next steps to kind of create an action plan to work through those areas. So again, we talk about guiding managers in the performance management process is really helping them be more intentional and more thoughtful about their engagement and their communication with employees. And that in itself will make managers' jobs just a little bit easier because they're avoiding, miscommunication and frustration with employees. All right. And to get us wrapped up here today, something that I definitely did not want to skip out on. If you want to use performance management to help guide managers in their roles, it's important that leaders engage managers in their own goals. Communicating and setting the expectations you have for them in the performance management process can help guide and empower them. And last but not least, leaders should collaborate with their managers to create a performance management process that the managers think is going to be the most beneficial to their direct reports. And it's something that's going to provide the insight that they need to advocate for their success. I've mentioned the word expectations a lot today, and that's because it's a big part of the performance management process. Without communicating clear expectations to managers and them to their employees, companies can run into a lot of miscommunication and frustration. Let managers know what is expected of them, and then ensure that they have the tools that they need to achieve the goals that are set for them. Lightwork Performance Management provides the tools that allows managers to engage with their employees throughout the performance management process on a user-friendly and flexible platform. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Lightwork Performance and how it can help your managers empower their employees and engage and communicate with them, please follow the link that's going to be in our follow-up email, or reach out to us at lightworksoftware.com. Again, just getting us wrapped up here today, I do want to say thank you to everybody. It was a joy spending time with you guys. As always, follow us on social media. We post blogs, we post best practices, we post articles from SHRM, so definitely a lot of good content out there. Make sure that you take the survey that's in the follow-up email, because it enters you into a raffle. The recording will be there. We'll include some resources. We recently had a request to share the slide deck, so we want to share that with everybody else, but please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Let us help you. Let us be a resource. Let us talk through your performance management process with you, and kind of help you and guide you to get your managers to a place where they're using it as a tool to advocate and support their employees. With that being said, thank you so much. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their week. Be on the lookout. We do these monthly, and if you enjoyed it, please feel free to share your feedback. Thanks, everybody.